The vast emptiness of space stretched before the USS horizon, a sleek human exploration vessel cutting through the darkness like a silver arrow. Lieutenant Hyun Park stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes scanning the starlit canvas. The ship's systems hummed softly, a technological heartbeat that echoed the crew's quiet anticipation. Captain J. Kim approached, his footsteps measured and calm. "Sensors are picking up something," he said, tapping the holographic display that flickered to life between them. A massive alien vessel began to materialize at the edge of their scanning range, its design unlike anything humanity had encountered before. The Krell ship was massive, easily dwarfing the human vessel. Its metallic skin seemed to shimmer and shift, reflecting starlight in impossible ways. Smooth curves and angular edges suggested a technology far beyond current human understanding. Communication protocols engaged automatically, and a translucent image of the alien commander materialized on the bridge. Admiral Vrel was a sight to behold. Tall and imposing, his exoskeleton gleamed with intricate patterns that seemed to move of their own accord. Multiple eyes, each a different color, studied the human crew with a mixture of curiosity and obvious disdain. When he spoke, his voice carried a mechanical undertone that sent subtle chills through the human crew. "Interesting," Vrel's translator crackled. "A human vessel. We've heard stories." Captain Kim stepped forward, his posture steady. "We come in peace," he responded, following standard first contact protocols. But something in the alien's gaze suggested this was no ordinary diplomatic meeting. The alien commander's laughter was a strange mechanical sound that echoed through the communication systems. "Peace? With your primitive technology?" Another series of clicks followed, what might have been a laugh among his species. "We have been monitoring your transmissions. Your weapons are nothing more than crude metal tubes that shoot small projectiles." Hyun. Park's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly. She was recording every moment, every word. Her training had prepared her for first contact scenarios, but nothing could have prepared her for the raw condescension dripping from the alien's words. "We've studied your species," Vrel continued. "Your technological development is amusing. You're like children playing with stones while we navigate galaxies." The holographic image leaned closer, multiple eyes blinking in an unsettling pattern. "Your so-called defense systems are laughable. A single pulse from our shields would disintegrate your entire fleet." The bridge remained silent. Each crew member maintained professional composure, but the tension was palpable. Captain Kim's response was measured, almost casual. "We appreciate your observation," he said, his voice betraying no emotion. But Hyun noticed something. A slight smile played at the corner of the captain's mouth, a look she recognized. It was the same expression he wore during simulation training when he was about to reveal a surprise. The Krell vessel continued to hover, its presence both threatening and curious. Advanced scanning beams probed the human ship, attempting to map its systems, analyze its capabilities. What they saw seemed to confirm their initial assessment: a primitive vessel from a young, insignificant species. What they didn't see were the subtle modifications hidden beneath the horizon's exterior. What they couldn't detect were the innovations brewing in human research facilities scattered across multiple solar systems. Admiral Vrel's final words before disconnecting were a mixture of mockery and dismissal. "When the time comes, human vessel, you will understand the true meaning of technological superiority." The communication link went dark. The holographic image dissolved. On the bridge, Captain Kim turned to Lieutenant Park. "Record everything," he said quietly. "Every single detail." She nodded, her fingers already dancing across the communication logs. Something was coming, something the Krell could not possibly understand. In the vast silence of space, the USS Horizon continued its journey, looking for all the world like a simple exploration vessel. But beneath its ordinary exterior, something extraordinary was taking shape, a response that would soon change everything the Krell thought they knew about humanity. The first encounter was complete, but this was only the beginning. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a research facility buzzed with quiet intensity. Dr. Seok Choi stood before a massive holographic display, his fingers tracing complex neural network patterns. The underground complex stretched for miles, hidden from satellite detection and shielded by layers of advanced technology. 12 engineers worked in synchronized silence. Each station hummed with specialized equipment, computer screens flickering, with calculations that would make most scientists' heads spin. They weren't just designing a weapon, they were creating something revolutionary. "We need something that thinks," Seok muttered, pulling up schematics of their latest project. The team had been working for months, fueled by the recordings from the first encounter with the Krell. Every dismissive comment, every moment of alien condescension had been analyzed, broken down, studied. A young researcher named Min approached with a fresh batch of coffee. "The quantum adaptive matrix is showing promise," she said, her voice low. The entire facility operated on a need-to-know basis. Security was paramount. The core of their project was deceptively simple, a bullet that could think, not just a pre-programmed projectile, but a truly adaptive piece of technology that could learn, adjust, and overcome defensive systems in real time. Each round would be a miniature computer, capable of making split-second decisions faster than any human could process. Seok pulled up the latest simulation. Hundreds of virtual scenarios played out simultaneously, each showing how their adaptive ammunition would react to different shield frequencies, materials, and defensive strategies. The early prototypes had failed spectacularly, but these latest models showed something different, something extraordinary. "Look," he said, pointing to a particular sequence. A single projectile navigated through increasingly complex defensive systems, adapting its trajectory, composition, and attack vector with each millisecond of contact. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a learning system. The team worked in shifts. Some slept in compact quarters deep within the facility, while others continued their research. They were driven by something more than military strategy. They were driven by a fundamental belief that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt, to learn, to overcome. Outside the facility, the world continued its normal routine. Politicians argued. People went about their daily lives. None of them knew about the technological revolution being developed miles beneath the mountain's surface. Each bullet was more than a piece of metal. It was a complex system of nanomaterials, quantum processors, and adaptive algorithms. The team had essentially created a brain, a thinking, learning, incredibly small brain that could be fired from a weapon. Initial tests show 97.3% potential. Effectiveness against known alien defensive systems, Min reported. Checking the latest data stream, Seok nodded, but his eyes told a different story. He was thinking about the Krell, about their dismissive attitude, about the moment they would realize humanity was not what they expected. The facility had multiple backup systems. If one section was compromised, others would continue working. Redundant power supplies, multiple communication channels, layers of protection that ensured their work would continue no matter what happened. As night fell outside, the underground complex continued its relentless work. Computer systems processed billions of calculations per second. Researchers refined designs. Small robotic arms assembled microscopic components with precision that bordered on art. Seok looked at a small display showing the first encounter with the Krell. The alien admiral's mocking voice played on a loop. "Primitive," the translation read. "Insignificant." A slight smile crossed the scientist's face. Sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage. The adaptive ammunition project was more than a weapon. It was a statement, a message to the universe that humanity would not be easily dismissed. Each bullet was a reminder that intelligence was not about size or initial technological capability, but about the ability to learn, to adapt, to overcome. As the night wore on, the underground facility continued its silent revolution. Outside, stars moved across the sky. Inside, the future of human defense was being written, one adaptive bullet at a time. Nobody knew what was coming. Nobody except the 12 engineers and their determined leader, working deep beneath the mountains, preparing a response that would change everything. The Ganymede colony looked peaceful from a distance. Massive protective domes covered the settlement, creating a delicate bubble of human existence against Jupiter's massive backdrop. Nobody expected the attack would come so quickly. Alarms screamed first. Red emergency lights began spinning across the colony's defense systems. Massive Krell warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their alien designs blocking out entire sections of space. They looked like metallic nightmares, sharp edges, impossible curves, weapons that pulsed with destructive energy. Captain J. Kim's voice remained calm over the communication channel. "Defensive positions," he said. "Prepare primary and secondary responses." The Krell didn't bother with communication this time. They simply attacked. Energy weapons sliced through the colony's outer protective layers. Sections of the protective dome began to crack and splinter. Colonists rushed to emergency shelters, their training kicking in despite overwhelming terror. But something was different this time. The first human response came not as a desperate defense, but as a calculated strike. Weapon systems that looked simple, almost primitive, began to activate. Missile tubes that the Krell had previously mocked now hummed with unexpected potential. The first volley of adaptive ammunition left their launch tubes. Each projectile behaved. Unlike any weapon the Krell had encountered, they weren't just bullets. They were intelligent systems capable of making split-second decisions. Where traditional missiles would follow a straight path, these twisted and turned. They analyzed shield frequencies in microseconds. They found weaknesses that didn't exist moments before. A Krell battleship suddenly found its primary shield grid collapsing, not because of overwhelming force, but because the human projectiles had learned its exact defensive pattern and exploited it perfectly. Another vessel's communication systems went dark as adaptive rounds surgically destroyed specific electronic nodes. "What is happening?" screamed a Krell commander watching his tactical display fall apart. The human response was surgical, precise, intelligent. Dr. Seok Choi watched the battle unfold from the underground research facility. Holographic displays showed each missile's path, each successful penetration. Years of research were proving themselves in real-time combat. "Adaptive protocols are functioning at 98.6% efficiency," reported a young technician. The room remained calm. This wasn't just a battle. This was a demonstration. Krell vessels began to retreat, but retreat wasn't salvation. The adaptive ammunition continued tracking, learning, destroying. Each projectile was a miniature hunter, more intelligent than any traditional weapon system. On the Ganymede colony, colonists watched in stunned silence. What had started as a potential extinction-level event was turning into something else entirely. A message, a statement about human capability. Captain Kim's voice remained steady. "Continue targeting," he instructed. "Maximum precision." The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it ended, the Krell fleet was in complete disarray. Numerous vessels drifted powerless, others had been completely destroyed, and not a single human life had been lost. As silence settled, the adaptive ammunition completed their final task, collecting critical data, transmitting information back to human command centers. They were weapons, but they were also researchers, gatherers of intelligence. Dr. Seok allowed himself a small smile. The Krell had mocked human technology. They had considered humanity a primitive species. Now they were learning a different lesson. The first strike was complete. And it was just the beginning. Somewhere in deep space, surviving Krell vessels carried a new understanding. Humanity was not what they had believed, not even close. The universe had just changed, and nobody saw it coming. The aftermath of the Ganymede battle spread like wildfire through galactic communication networks. News traveled faster than light, carrying stories of humanity's unexpected technological leap. Research facilities around Earth began working overtime, building upon the success of the adaptive ammunition. Dr. Hyun Lee stood in a massive simulation chamber, watching holographic representations of their new weapon systems. Each projection showed incredible complexity, weapons that thought, learned, and adapted in milliseconds. What the Krell had considered primitive was now revealing itself as something entirely revolutionary. "We're not just creating weapons," Hyun explained to her team. "We're developing intelligent systems that can solve complex problems in real time." The adaptive technology wasn't limited to ammunition. Engineers began applying the same principles to defensive systems, communication networks, and exploration technologies. Each breakthrough built upon the last, creating a cascade of innovation that moved at unprecedented speeds. Military strategists quickly realized they were dealing with something beyond traditional warfare. These weren't just weapons. They were thinking machines that could analyze and respond faster than any biological intelligence could process. In orbital research stations, teams worked around the clock. Young scientists who had grown up hearing stories of human limitations now found themselves at the forefront of a technological revolution. They weren't just developing new technologies. They were rewriting the rules of what technology could do. The Krell communication intercepts told a different story. Panic, confusion, fear. Their most advanced defensive systems had been rendered useless by a species they had previously dismissed as technologically insignificant. How? One Krell communication log read. How did they create such adaptive systems? The answer was simple: necessity, creativity, human determination. Each adaptive system learned from its previous encounter. Missile systems that survived previous battles came back smarter, more precise. Their neural networks grew more complex with every mission. They weren't just weapons. They were evolving intelligence. Universities around the world began creating entire departments dedicated to adaptive technology. Young students saw possibilities where previous generations had seen limitations. The technology developed for defense was quickly finding applications in medicine, space exploration, and artificial intelligence. Dr. Seok Choi, now heading the primary research team, explained it simply during a rare public presentation. "We didn't just create a weapon," he said. "We created a new way of thinking about technology." Space exploration programs received massive funding. Where previous missions had been careful and slow, new missions became bold. Adaptive technologies meant humans could send probes and vessels into environments that were previously considered impossible to navigate. The technological revolution wasn't just about military capability. It was about fundamentally understanding how intelligence could be created, how learning could be programmed, how adaptive systems could solve complex problems. Alien civilizations watching human developments began to recalculate their understanding of this young species. The Krell were just the first to learn a crucial lesson. Humanity was not what they appeared to be. In research facilities, in military command centers, in universities and private laboratories, a new era of human potential was being born. Each breakthrough built upon the last. Each discovery opened new possibilities. The adaptive ammunition that had surprised the Krell was now just the beginning. Scientists were already developing next-generation technologies that would make current systems look primitive by comparison. "We're limited only by our imagination," Hyun would tell her students. And for the first time in human history, that statement felt completely true. The technological revolution had begun, and nobody, not humans, not aliens, not anyone, could predict where it would lead. The universe was about to change, and humanity was holding the key. The galactic communication channels buzzed with whispers and rumors. Alien civilizations spoke in hushed tones about the unexpected human technological breakthrough. What had started as a simple encounter had transformed into a moment that would be remembered for generations. Surviving Krell vessels limped back to their home systems, carrying stories that seemed impossible. Their military leaders gathered in massive conference chambers, trying to understand how a species they had considered insignificant had completely destroyed their most advanced battle fleet. "They are not what we thought," muttered Admiral Vrel, his multiple eyes scanning damaged communication logs. The once proud alien commander now looked defeated, his previous arrogance completely shattered. On Earth, the response was surprisingly measured. No massive celebrations, no dramatic speeches, just quiet, calculated progress. Dr. Seok Choi and his team continued their research, understanding that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey. Diplomatic channels opened slowly. Other alien civilizations wanted to understand. How had humans created such adaptive technology? What were their intentions? The human response was simple and consistent: exploration, learning, progress. Military strategists around the world realized they had entered a new era of technological development. The adaptive ammunition was more than a weapon. It was a statement about human potential, a demonstration of what could be achieved when creativity met scientific innovation. The Ganymede colony, which had been the site of the initial attack, became a symbol of human resilience. Colonists who had faced potential destruction now stood as living proof of human adaptability. Their stories spread across human settlements, inspiring a new generation of scientists and explorers. Universities saw unprecedented enrollment in technological and scientific programs. Young students who had once seen technology as a distant concept now understood its true potential. They weren't just learning. They were preparing for a future where human innovation could solve any challenge. Alien diplomatic missions began arriving cautiously. They wanted to understand, to learn, to comprehend how a species they had dismissed could develop such advanced technology so quickly. "We underestimated humanity" became a common phrase in alien communication networks. The technological revolution wasn't just about weapons. Medical research saw massive breakthroughs. Adaptive systems began solving complex medical challenges. Diseases that had been considered impossible to treat suddenly found potential solutions. Space exploration programs received massive funding. Missions that had been considered too risky now seemed not just possible, but probable. Humanity's perspective had shifted from survival to exploration. Captain J. Kim, who had led the initial defense, became a symbol of calm leadership. His measured response during the Krell attack was studied in military academies across human settlements. Leadership wasn't about aggression. It was about intelligent, calculated response. Dr. Hyun Lee continued developing adaptive technologies. Each breakthrough built upon the last. What had started with ammunition was now expanding into communication systems, medical technologies, and space exploration tools. The Krell attempted diplomatic communications. Their messages were careful, respectful, a complete reversal from their initial aggressive stance. Humanity's response remained consistent: peaceful exploration, scientific progress. Global human unity emerged from the conflict. Previous national boundaries seemed less important. The technological breakthrough had shown that human potential was limitless when people worked together. Research facilities around the world began sharing information. Competition gave way to collaboration. The adaptive technology wasn't just a human achievement. It was a testament to what could be accomplished through collective human intelligence. Alien civilizations watched and waited. Some feared, some were curious, but all understood one thing: humanity was not what they had believed. The aftermath of the Krell encounter was more than a military victory. It was a moment of collective human potential, a demonstration that intelligence, creativity, and adaptability could overcome any challenge. As stars continued their silent dance across the universe, humanity prepared for its next great journey. The technological revolution had begun, and nobody, not humans, not aliens, could predict where it would lead. The universe had just changed, and humanity was just getting started.